Question 14. The grouped frequency table shows information about the weekly wages of 80 factory workers. Part A. Complete the cumulative frequency table. So cumulative means that we're going to add up each value as we go. So in the first group between 100 and 200 we still only have 8 people. But the next group we're between 100 and 300, which means we're taking our first value and adding the next one to it. So 8 add 15 will be 23. In our next group we want 100 to 400, which means it's the first 3 numbers added together, which is 53. Add the next number to find our fourth value, which would be 53 add 17, which is 70. Add 7 for the next value, that's 77, and then add 3 to find out how many there are altogether. Now the question told us there should be 80 people. Our cumulative frequency is added to 80, therefore we know that something's gone right there and we've probably got everyone involved. Part B. On the grid opposite, draw a cumulative frequency graph for your table. So I've copied the table across so that I can see all of this on one page. This would be on a double spread, so your table should be on the left hand side of the page. Now cumulative frequency graph starts at the beginning, and at each end point, so at 200 our cumulative frequency was 8, so you use the end point to plot with a cumulative frequency. So at 200 that should be 8, so I'm going to put a small cross at 8. When it hits 300 we had 23 people, so that starts there. At 400 we went up to 53, which is up here. At 500 that was 70, making sure that we plot that one again as accurate as you possibly can using your table. So even if you've gone wrong on the table, just plot what you've got and connect this using whichever the coordinates would be. At 600 we have 77, and then at 700 we have 80. Now that's only the first part of the graph. By plotting all our points, what we need to do now is to connect these using a freehand drawn curve. Now this is the tricky part, especially on a computer. Just try to get the smoothest curve that you can freehand. Try not to use a ruler. It looks really good, but it's a little bit inaccurate because cumulative frequency graphs are supposed to vary as they go. So now that wasn't very good. Just rub it out and attempt to draw it. Now some philosophies say that because 100 was the smallest number, you should draw the graph down to 100 at 0. You don't have to at this stage. That should be good enough to give you your full marks. Back to the actual questions. I have to keep flicking forwards and backwards between these two pages. Part C says use your graph to find an estimate for the interquartile range. So interquartile range means we're looking for the low quarter, the upper quarter, and the distance between them. And this is why we have a curve. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit on this so that we can see the whole graph. Now to find out where these quartiles would lie, we have to look at our cumulative frequency. We have 80 people in total, so our median, our halfway point, would be at 40 people, which means our first quarter, our lower quartile, is here at 20 people. So you draw a line across at 20 and then down to the bottom to find out that the lowest quartile is about £280 a week. In a similar way, we look to find the upper quartile, which is halfway between 40 and 80. In this case it would be 60. This is 3/4 of the total value and therefore would give us our upper quartile. Draw a line across to the graph and then down to find out that your upper quartile is going to be about 430. Now your graph might be a little bit different depending on the accuracy of your lines and where you've drawn your curves. They will accept this as long as you show where you get your values from. So we have a difference between 430 and 280. I have to remember this one as we move back to the other page. So 430 and 280. 430. Oops. 430 take away 280 means that we have an interquartile range, or the difference between those two numbers is 150, so the interquartile range is £150. Part D, use your graph to find an estimate for the number of workers with a weekly wage of more than £530. So we need to go back to our graph. £530 is what we're looking for. Again, let's zoom out so that we can actually see the whole graph. Might have been easier if I'd done this when plotting the graph. £530 is about here. 500 is this thick bold line. So we go 1, 2, 3, 530 is here. Draw this up to your curve, which is a line of best fit. Make sure it is going straight up and not deviating from the line. And then from here we can go across to see that the cumulative frequency for that value on my graph is about 72. Just have a slight closer look to show that. So with 2 marks up, so 72. There are up to 72 people have that amount. But the question asked us here, how many people have more than that? So because there are 80 people in total, and 72 have 530, up to £530, whatever's left over must mean that those people have more than that amount. So in this case, we have 8 people who are beyond that point on the graph. Showing that if you showed that 72 people had up to £530 would be 1 mark, but you've got to remember if it's more than that on a cumulative frequency graph, it's whatever's left over.